Compute. Here we go. All right, it's official. Here we are. I've got double Kylie's again. That's all right. It looks like there's more people here, Kylie. That's you can keep the double sign in. So welcome, guys who are here. It seems like a lot of people are going to be watching the recordings, but we have Twins and Danny live. So thanks for joining us live, guys. But there's almost 20 signed up, so I'm wondering if the sign-in's an issue. Anyway, we're going to do it. We're going to do the chat and go through this Ayurveda and yoga, the essential integration piece, because it's to me it's just one of them. It has been for so many years. It's been one of the most important linkings of systems that really they're not even linking of systems. They are the same system, and we'll get to that towards the end of the talk. But we'll start by just doing a little bit of I'm just going to do it for myself because I've been actually emailing 20 people individually the Zoom link to see if we can get them on here. So we're just going to do a little breathing, settle in, anchoring into the session. We'll transition from what we've been doing to what we're up to now, and just sort of let the previous part of the day sort of drift into the back and maybe even out of the mind. And we'll take a few deep breaths into the present moment. And have the intention of being open and receptive. And also have the sense that you are grounded in your body into this the place that you're sitting now, whether you're sitting here live or you're sitting watching the recordings at some point. Just to give yourself a moment to anchor into your seat or into the place and the space that you're feeling at this moment. And the quickest way to really do that is to consciously focus on breathing, consciously shape your breath and start to work on this even, smooth in and out breath. And as we do this over a certain period of time, we just start to cultivate presence. It's such a simple exercise. And it doesn't fix everything, but a lot of the time it can really help bring us right into this, what we're doing right now. So if you can even relax the abdomen and breathe into the abdomen a few times. Just adjust your body so that your spine's upright and you're in an alert, yet neutral position. And just smoothing out your breath. You can begin to deepen the breath as your body calms down a little bit, and your nervous system begins to settle. I've been on the building site all day and rushed home to set up all this equipment, so it takes me a moment to settle after doing a lot as well in the day. Just softening any parts of the body that are holding tension, your face or your shoulders, anywhere at all. Good. And when you're ready, just maintain this sort of smooth breathing, but you can slowly open your eyes when you feel ready to do that. And welcome, official welcome. Thanks for being here live. You guys are on here live, and thanks to those that are going to watch the recordings when they get to them. But part of the intention of offering this talk tonight was really around, well, for me, reconnecting with community. I've taught a bit over the last couple of years, but it's been less than I've taught in many, many years for a number of reasons. But I'm really getting back into, we're going to be doing a lot more of this. Well, we've got my 650-hour course starting this year. So this is really a big re-entering in a bigger way than I ever have before. So a lot more of these shorter events will start to pop up as well. But what I really want to talk about is the importance of this integration between Ayurveda and yoga as we see them as seemingly separate systems. Hopefully by the end of our chat tonight, we'll look at them as one big integrated whole, and that's how I've always taught it. And we teach that in sort of a couple of lectures that I call the three rivers or the three sacred rivers, where we look at Ayurveda, classical yoga, and traditional Tantra. We sort of hone in on what each of the system focuses on, which we'll do a little bit tonight, but I'll try and make it a bit different than the three rivers lecture. And have a look at how they all actually integrate as one big whole system. You know, it's one big whole system of dealing with each layer and each level and pretty much every single aspect of our life. Each of these particular, we will still call them systems, hones in on something different, but it's very much completely linked with the others. You know, there's no real separating them. So I'll start a little bit on my journey and how I got into Ayurveda because, you know, like who sort of comes to Ayurveda first, you know? And if there's a bunch more people on live, I'd ask the question, who came to Ayurveda first? Danny, did you come to Ayurveda first, or did you start studying yoga first and then Ayurveda sort of was introduced later?
Um, Ayurveda was well, yoga found me initially,
Yeah,
but it was actually a bit of both.
a bit of both, sort of
It
around the
was a
same.
bit of both, really, and
Yeah,
that's why I, I don't know. I have a passion for learning both of them and understand the importance of them being as one.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that the trend has been over the last 20 years that people have got into yoga. Yoga was this huge thing, you know, that was introduced to the West. It was more than 20 years ago. It was maybe 50, 60 years ago now, 50 years ago, however long it was. But the trend has been we've got into these yoga practices and we've been lured in by these certain practices that have, you know, they've had some effect on us in some way, whether it be just physically. A lot of people just really purely getting the physical out of it, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, if you're purely doing yoga asana as a physical practice, great. If it works for you in that sense, fantastic. To me, I think there's a lot better just physical training out there than yoga asana, depending on what you're going for. But a lot of us came to it for some reason. There was some reason we were lured into this practice of yoga, and it was through hatha yoga. I mean, when I say hatha yoga, I mean through the postures and yoga classes where we're doing, you know, the movements and the poses and the breathing and maybe some chanting and some shavasana or whatever people are doing. They're the sort of the main things that are happening in yoga classes. So we were introduced, you know, to these practices. And then eventually it came into, you know, there was teacher trainings or people eventually found out that Ayurveda was linked in some way, or they were both from India. So in some sense, it's like, well, let's study this other Indian science that's somewhat related to yoga, or it's you know, directly related. It depends on how people were delivering it. But essentially, most people came to yoga first and started practicing hatha yoga, you know, being the postures and everything. And then somewhere I got introduced to Ayurveda in either in their teacher training or somewhere in a studio. Somebody mentioned it and it came up. And it was the same for me. It was actually pretty early on. I'd been practicing a little bit of yoga asana. I mean, I'd been doing a lot of similar practices for a lot of years through martial arts, which were deep breathing and you know your conscious meditation, moving prana or moving chi or hara or whatever we called it, depending on the particular martial art. Um, so I'd been doing a lot of deep stretching and breathing and conscious body movement for years. And then it was introduced to yoga practice in the mid 90s. When it really kicked in for me, and it's sort of, I don't know if it's ironic or not, but it's there's sort of some irony in it, but in another sense, it was sort of perfect harmony, really. But I was in drug and alcohol rehabilitation in the late 90s. I was in my sort of mid 20s, and I'd hit a wall head on hard, and it was really sort of a time when I know I can laugh about it now, but it was a time when I was seeking, you know, refuge in something, and very first of all, it was like it's a long story, and I've told it in many podcasts and so forth. But just through a course of events, I ended up um, sort of getting in the back door into this very highly reputable rehabilitation center that had a long wait list, and I had through just a course of these serendipitous events, I guess we could call them, that got me in there within days of me deciding that I needed some serious help. And it's interesting because when in this it was a 90 what was it, a 90-day rehabilitation course. So it was like a pretty serious. It wasn't just a 1 week holiday off drugs and alcohol. It was like a serious spiritual program over 90 days. And I actually ended up in there for about 126 days. But in there, I met this woman who was also having issues with alcohol and drugs, and yet she was a yogi. She'd been practicing yoga and Ayurveda for many years, and still ended up in a similar situation, which I'll get to at the end of the talk as well, about just because we practice these practices and we know these things, life isn't always smooth and easy. But I was introduced to some of the deeper sort of concepts of hatha yoga through this woman in rehab, and also introduced to Ayurveda. I had never even heard of Ayurveda, and she bought me a neti pot, which I wish I still had. It was this beautiful ceramic colored thing. I'd never seen anything like it since that, and I had it for years. But so I was introduced to some of the basic elements of Ayurveda then in 1999. So it sparked my interest, but my interest was more in the hatha yoga practices and the power practices of Tantra and that sort of thing. So I pursued this after rehab. I actually made a decision in rehab that I wanted a system that was going to be able to cover the whole of life. And that was it. When I saw that yoga had Ayurveda as a part of it, it was like, this is the system. So I started really delving into yoga practice and yoga study. And because I was already very, very flexible, it sort of made it easy for me to feel like I was already good at it, which is, it sounds a bit silly to say that now, but because I was really flexible, I was good at the postures. So I did well, I did well I'd go to classes and I could almost do the splits already. So it was sort of this interesting egoic, or very surface level attraction that got me in there initially. But it was very, very soon after that I noticed there was a lot of different things happening than just physically stretching. So I started studying very deeply in the yoga, started studying classical yoga, and decided that I needed to do, a lot more training. So I immersed myself in a 9 month training in Byron Bay in 2003, which introduced me to Ayurveda on another level. That was when Ayurveda was introduced as like it is part of the system. The principles are 100% aligned with all of the yoga teachings. And so this was sort of really something that sparked my interest. Although I was, as a bit of an extremist and someone that likes intensity in things, the left-handed tantra and all these powerful tantric mantras and tantric practices and breathing and breath retentions, they were the things that captivated me and seduced me in. But the more I was practicing these, and I was practicing pretty intensively, and during this training, we were practicing, maybe 3 hours a day of asana and pranayama, maybe 4 hours some days. So we'd have our morning Ashtanga primary series practice some days, or a lot of the days, and then Iyengar in the afternoons, and then the rest of the day was lectures and so forth. So we were doing a lot of the pranic hatha yoga practices. 45 minutes of pranayama every morning, 45 minutes of meditation, and then we'd go on to do the primary series, which could take up to an hour and a half, 2 hours. So it became very apparent throughout that 9 months, and not, and after that, that there was this voice in my head telling me that if I'm going to continue on this path, this power path of yoga, because it is a power path, it's a path of awareness and power if you're talking Tantra yoga. If I'm going to continue on that path, there was just this voice telling me that I needed to tidy up my lifestyles. I needed to prepare my body even more. I wasn't neglecting and abusing it anywhere near like I was in the previous years. But because we were starting to work with these really heightened levels of prana and starting to, work directly with the mind, it was quite apparent that I needed to live a lifestyle that was going to be more conducive to those practices. And Ayurveda was just sort of beaming its lights at me. Just come to me, come to me. So I started seeking out more knowledge in Ayurveda, and I did. I started reading books, and one of my earliest books I read was from Robert Svoboda, who's a very well-known, worldly scholar on both Tantra and Ayurveda. And that was my introduction to some of the deeper teachings. And I went on to a couple of years later after that doing a correspondence course with Robert Svoboda. And, it took me probably a year to do this correspondence course. And with Ayurveda, it's really interesting because you can do a 3 hour course or a weekend course on Ayurveda and think that you've got it dialed in, and this is what happened earlier on. I'm like, wow, I've got these three doshas and these are the qualities and the elements associated with each dosha. And I've got this nailed. This is a really simple system. And, to some degree, there is some beautiful simplicity to it. But the deeper I studied and the more I went into the teachings at a deeper level, the more I realized that it was like, wow, this is no joke. This is not just to do my 3 hours in my teacher training and start diagnosing and prescribing people practices and things based off what I thought was, because I think we all did it then. We're like, what's your dosha? What's my dosha? My dosha is Pitta or my dosha is Vata. So we would then prescribe ourselves or prescribe our students these Vata practices or Vata food or a Vata, pacifying lifestyle. And we weren't even aware that there was actually one part of our system is, yes, your constitution, which is, your ideal optimal state. But that's not the part we're treating. The part we're treating is the imbalance part, which is called your vikruti or your current state. So there's your state when you're in your optimal running. Everything's running perfectly, optimally, which is not very often because everything fluctuates all the time. But um, and then there's the current state we're in, and that can be just a little bit off center, or it can be way out to the side. And that's what we need to treat. And that changes because the imbalance can change. We can be highly, in a well over amplified, overstimulated state, which requires a certain sort of, a certain um, a set of treatments, and ways of things to eat and lifestyles to live to bring us down from that sort of over hyperstimulated state. Or we can be well understimulated. We can be totally in this, what we'd call a tamasic state, where if we did those other practices, it would make it worse. So we need some more stimulating practices to bring us up to this, level space. So, when that became apparent that there's like, wow, there's actually not just find out what your dosha is and then you buy all the things that are for that dosha. It was like, actually, we've got a state that's optimal, but everything in our lives affects that optimal state. The temperature, what foods we eat, what we're looking at on our phone, everything that's happening, the music we're listening to, that will sort of affect us in one way or another. It'll take us that way or that way, depending on what the quality of the thing is or the quality of the temperature or the season or whatever. So when that became apparent, it was like, well, I want to really know what I'm talking about. This is not something I want to dabble in and start giving out a lot of misinformation around. So a number of years later, cut a few pieces out of the story. And I'd been teaching and was still practicing, very regularly and studying Tantric Hatha Yoga as much as ever. But this Ayurvedic piece just kept coming in stronger and stronger. So in 2010, I actually or 2009, I started looking for a college in the US and found the one I wanted to go to. And it was the California College of Ayurveda. And I wanted to get the highest level of study I could do. So that's what I did, is went to that course and did. It took me 2.5 years, I think, to finish the full training there. And all the whilst teaching yoga and practicing with my teacher and going through different levels of mantras and things like that. I was studying Ayurveda more in depth, and I can say it was one of the wiser decisions I've made in my life, because as I was continuing to practice Tantra and I was being initiated into this Tantric lineage, doing these power practices, and I was practicing, a lot daily back then. So it was even more important that I started treating my system and my nervous system a lot better than I had been. So it became one of the main elements to then my practice, you know. Um, so what happened after that was this integration of like, wow, so I've got all of this, and with the Ayurvedic training I did, there was actually quite a lot of yogic philosophy and so forth in it, which was really interesting because I was very familiar with that. And I'm like, oh wow, this is linking up perfectly. This is not like one system over here and then yoga's here. This is like, wow, these are actually one system working together. They're just focusing on different parts. And that's when it became sort of really apparent that these are, you know, they're so confluent. There's nothing in them that gets mismatched. Um, so that's when I really started bringing forth this integration piece, this yoga and Ayurveda as an essential integration. If we're going to be doing these practices of yoga, if we're going to be practicing Tantra and Tantra yoga, then it's essential to at least know the basic principles of Ayurveda. I really, now that I'm sort of have studied what I've studied, I find it almost like it's almost impossible. It's not impossible, but it's seemingly very difficult to utilize the practices of tantric hatha yoga and classical yoga without understanding the principles of nature. It doesn't matter. It just has to be sort of together now. So that's how I see it, and that's how I've taught everything I've taught since actually studying Ayurveda to that level was based on, well, these are together. These are entwined. It's not like we learn Ayurveda over here and we learn yoga there. They're actually together. If we want to look at it in basic terms, we can say that Ayurveda prepares the vessel. If you can read that writing. But Ayurveda prepares our physical vessel, right? We're a physical body. At the center of our core, where there's a spark of soul that's part of the cosmos, but we're physical and energetic and at the core spiritual. So Ayurveda focuses a whole lot on getting this physical body and this vessel in its optimal running state. Um, Now, if we just do that alone and neglect the mind and neglect our energy, that's limited also. I mean, it's better than not doing it, sure as heck. It's better to have good physical health than not. But if we just finish it like, okay, I eat really well, I get to bed on time, I'm eating with the seasons, I'm doing things that are climatizing to whatever surroundings I'm in, that's great. But if I don't then start progressing onto working with my mind, I'm gonna plateau out there. So that's when Ayurveda has prepared our vessel. And when I say prepare our vessel, let's just look at that for a minute. It's getting our nervous system structured in a way that can hold a lot more power, a lot more energy. It's getting our immune system, and in Ayurveda we call this ojas, but it's getting our ojas, which is the robustness and it's the strength of your immunity and your auric field. So it's the strength of your nerve lines and your throtas or your nadis. It's the strength of, yes, your physical body, your bones and your muscles and all the other things, but it's how robust and how resilient is your system, you know, and your nervous system, and how well do you digest? How well do you not just digest food, but how well is your whole body digesting everything that's coming in and processing it? So Ayurveda hones in on and prepares all of those things for the rest of the journey. And that was sort of one of the initial intentions of Ayurveda was to set up your vehicle to go on this spiritual journey, spiritual and energetic journey. So Ayurveda prepares the vessel, your instrument to go and live your life with. And then when I'm talking about yoga here, I'm talking about classical yoga or Patanjali yoga. A lot of it's about stabilizing the mind and then building awareness. And I'm just nutshelling this stuff. I mean, it's about a lot more, but if we just want to, I don't know, I'm not sure if you can even read this. Pretend that you can. So that says stabilizing mind and building awareness. You know, there's a lot to it. Obviously, we talk of Patanjali yoga. And when I say yoga, it's, the Yoga Sutras or the Yoga Sutra. This is classical yoga. There's lots of different schools and styles of yoga. And we'll link this with Tantra yoga in a minute as well. But yoga in general is about, and you see this in the Yoga Sutra a lot, at time and time again, Patanjali talks about stability and steadiness of the mind. Being able to direct the mind at a point eventually. So it's not just leaking out in all directions. Because when we do that, when you think about, the saying goes, you can only really do one thing properly. People can multitask, and people are doing more and more of that these days. But how much power is in each thing that we're doing? How much focus in each thing that we're doing? And unless it's like, bang, I'm doing this one thing, we're honing in on this one thing where all the power comes to. And then building awareness. And it first starts with building self-awareness, building awareness of our smaller self, we could call it, the self of our personality and my being is who I am in the world and all of those sort of things. But then it's also building awareness of the greater, the bigger S self, which is this, who am I in the bigger scheme of things? Who am I? I'm a child of divinity. I'm spirit. Um, so this is what yoga's about. And so if we have got a nervous system that's shattered, problems with digestion, just general issues in our body, it's going to be very, very challenging to stabilize your mind and start building awareness. It's just going to be a huge distraction. Not saying you can't do it, because we know that some masters have been riddled with illness, but they've still been perfectly on point here. That's a different story. That's a different karmic thing. But if we're just looking at this in practical terms, if we're out of whack here, it's going to make this extremely difficult to do yoga, as we're talking about. Sure, you can do the postures and all that sort of thing, but that's not what I'm talking about here. And then when we bring Tantra into the scene, what could we say Tantra's about? Tantra is really about everything, but if we want to hone it down to a couple of words, it's about self-mastery. I don't want to throw the word self-mastery around too much. That's the ultimate idea of it. Self-mastery through the management of prana, Shakti, which is, and some people get so triggered by the word power. And I mean, we're all allured by it, but we get triggered by it too. And I think a lot of people in the new agey spiritual realm think that power equals destruction, you know? And a lot of the time it does. It gets back to the good old saying of, I posted this somewhere the other day. I can't even remember what it was on, but it might have been one of the Dharma posts I made. But it was about power without wisdom is destructive. You think if you've got all of this power, and think of it on human terms, if I've got a lot of power, whether it's power through I'm very wealthy, and this is what we're seeing in the world right now, there's a lot of people with a lot of Shakti in the form of certain things. It's certainly not awakened Shakti in a sense. It's like it's a form of Shakti, it's a form of prana, and it does give them a lot of power. Power without wisdom, you just start buying out. And I don't want to get too off the hook here, but these aren't conspiracies or weird theories anymore. But if you just buy out all of the television stations and all of the radio stations and start pumping your messages across there, you can influence and manipulate the masses. And that's what yogis are trying to do. That's what I'm trying to do also. But it's not for my benefit. Well, some of it's for my benefit, but you know what I mean. It's not a destructive force. It's about empowering each other to empower each other. And if it's coming from a place of wisdom, it's a very different story. We'd see a very, very different world. Okay, so that's power without wisdom. But then if we think of wisdom without power, great ideas. I know how to solve all the issues on the planet. I know what could resolve all this conflict and all of the greed and all of the everything that's, creating uh, all of the disharmony and destruction and illness and suffering on the planet. But I have no power to do it. I can't even get off my seat, or I'm struggling to pay my rent. And this is a lot of people in sort of this realm. We have the most beautiful worldviews and ideals, but we haven't built the Shakti or the container to hold the Shakti or have a stable enough mind to actually do it. Because if you go through here and you prepare the vessel well, get it ready, right? Forget power at this point. I mean, that's coming. But in order to have power and to use it wisely, we first need to be able to contain it. And then we need to be able to direct it at something. And if I don't have a strong vessel and a strong container, and I don't have a stabilized mind that I can control, then I have no business messing with power. Or if I do, karma. I'm not saying good karma, bad karma. Just karma will sort it out. Karma is sorting it out now. It's just a lot of us are suffering in the process, and that's not wrong either. That's not wrong either. It just sucks. It's just uncomfortable. You know. So this is where when we look at this system and we can look at it sort of these systems as a systematic sort of approach to building towards having power, but doing it in a way where there's wisdom backing it, there's stability, there's a good anchoring and a good grounding, then it's really difficult to see these systems as one. Because like most people, this is how I've seen it, and this is how I've experienced it myself. And after being in the industry for nearly 30 years and paying a lot of attention to it, like I've put a lot of my effort into studying the deeper teachings, and practicing the deeper teachings. And I had a great teacher and great guides, and I stuck with the one tradition. Um, but the theme has been wants to go for everyone gets seduced by the power stuff. Including me, like earlier on, I was like, I just want the power mantra. I want the initiation. I didn't get into that too early on because I wasn't even that aware of what initiation and lineage was back in my early days. But as I started to grow, it started getting sold quite a bit in the last decade. That getting initiation and getting these powerful mantras that initiates you into this 5,000 or 10,000-year-old tradition is going to give you the power to awaken your kundalini, and then whoa, you know. This is where that talk should come in at the same time, and it's about the whole selling, and this is the alluring, like I say, the seducing, alluring parts, awakening kundalini, because we've got this idea that if we awaken our kundalini, shit is going to be amazing. Everything's going to be amazing, right? Is that sort of what's sold? It's going to clear through all the blocks and all of the things that have been holding me back, or all the traumas and dramas and everything that's blocking my true self from beaming. If I just awaken kundalini, it's just going to all clear and come out. Well, that's another nice ideal and another new agey idea that was really nice to package and sell, but it's a bunch of bullshit. Um, it's just what it is. Because if you start to awaken Kundalini, it's just the same thing as what we talked about. If you have some issues with greed or with shame or with overpowering or control or whatever it may be, and it can be in any form. And guess what? And you start supercharging it by pounding on Kundalini and doing all these breath retentions and powering it and 4 million Kapalabhati blasts and holding your breath, yet your nervous system's smashed and you've still riddled with issues. This is, well, look out there. Just go on Instagram, there it is. Just turn on the news. No, don't turn on the news. That's a bad idea. But you know what I'm saying. Just look out in the world, and that's this is not saying that these people have all had their Kundalini awakened, but what we're seeing is a lot of power without wisdom and a lot of power without stability and grounding and solid, wholesome, holistic intentions that are aligned with that of nature. You know, there are people, but it's just being a bit overrun, and, and there's other ways of looking at it, and I won't get too whacked out on the color, on the yugas and all of those things. And it is as it's meant to be. We can say that as well. But I don't like to say that everything is perfect as it is. I don't like to say that in a way that um, I stop putting intention into what I'm doing. And that's where this can become a trap. These non-dual practices to people that are untrained and unstable, they can just go down to, well, everything's perfect as it is, man. I don't need to do anything. It's all just going to take care of itself. And to some degree that's true, but I just feel like um, it's a very ungrounded perspective to have too earlier on in the journey. And a lot of people like to jump on it because it's very alluring to try and be non-dual. I'm way back into the dualism of yoga and Ayurveda. Let's focus on that. I'm not saying I'm denying that. I'm just saying very few people are ready for non-dual perspective, including myself. I mean, I dabble with it and it helps me in some ways. But the reason why Patanjali chose Samkhya philosophy, which is the base philosophical model of all of this, really, the reason he chose that is because he wanted people to be responsible for their journey and to contribute into the greater good of things, into the greater harmony of everything. So that's where these systems just integrate. They're there for a reason. They're integrated for a reason. It's not like you just pick one that's the most cool. I just want Shakti and power, you know, and just go to those workshops. Well, I've seen the results of a lot of that too. And I've worked with a lot of people that it's taken months and months and months to repair their nervous systems and to bring their minds back from being shattered. Yeah, talk about having your mind blown. Yeah, minds were blown into a million pieces, and it took months and months, if not years, to bring them back into a place where they could just feel normal again. Whether it was through substance, it was through some sort of ceremony, or it was just through doing way too heightened practices before they were ready for them. So I'm just riffing. I'm actually just freestyling tonight. I've sort of got notes, but I haven't looked at any of them. It was just about having a chat about why the integration of these systems. And when I put yoga, I just include Tantra because this just segues from here. This is just setting us up for here, the more heightened practices. I mean, even just in this, because the Yoga Sutra itself does get non-dual towards the end of it, but it mostly focuses on steady, steady, steady. Get your 2 feet on the ground, anchor in your body, cultivate presence and awareness. Then, uh, then you may start experiencing some of the non-dual experiences rather than just talking about them and having them as nice ideals. You'll start experiencing them in a way that's going to be helpful rather than just a way I can blab about on IG or anywhere else. Um, so what are we talking about? Ayurveda and yoga, the essential integration. It's essential. Not even like just in my eyes, and I'm just coming from my perspective and my experience, and that's where we all come from. But just after, obviously years of flogging myself and blowing my own mind to pieces, and then practicing, sort of starting with tantric practices earlier on and then them quickly bringing me to Ayurveda and then sort of pretty quickly realizing that although this seemed way more cool, this is exactly what I needed. And this is where I start to go, okay, so we've got to make Ayurveda more cool. Because a lot of the way it's taught, and this will just segue, this will be a bit of a segue into me introducing the 650-hour training. It sort of goes both ways here. A lot of this is taught without any awareness of that, right? A lot of this Tantra and the yoga stuff is taught like it's, let's all just do the power practices, get the mantra, get initiated from your teacher, and you're done. Awesome. Killing it. No talk of Ayurveda or stable, or very little. Just quickly, on this dosha and that dosha. But also I see a lot of Ayurveda that's just lost spirituality. Or just doesn't include spirituality at all anymore. It's all about oils and herbs and treating the body, and it just remains very, very bland and very physical, and very much to a point where it's sort of allopathic. That's for a reason. That was a bit of a political thing that happened in India where India was taken over by, and I don't pretend to know all of the history because I don't go into history that much. But as I understood it, India was overtaken by England. They shut down a lot of the Ayurvedic practices and schools and hospitals. Brought in allopathic medicine. We know why, right? I don't need to say why that happened. Um, and then years later, when India became its own country again, they started sort of like, oh, let's get back to our roots and let's bring Ayurveda out. But a lot of the allopathic practice sort of, or the allopathic approach came into it. So it's like, come in here, let's read the pulse. Here's your herbs. Read the pulse. Here's your thing. Gone. Whereas Ayurveda really, if practiced well, it's like we're working with people, yes, on a physical level with what they're eating and digesting and the oil treatments and whatever, whatever we do in Ayurveda. But as we progress, there's got to be introduction to the more subtle practices of yoga. It's in there. It's in the, it's like, what's the psychology of Ayurveda? Because that's one of my biggest interests. Well, there it is. Yoga is the psychology of Ayurveda. And if you bring the Ayurvedic principles into yogic psychology, I mean, it's incredibly helpful. So you think about how many different type of yogic practices there are and how many different types of meditations there are. Should everyone be doing the same one? Just because you're in a big group and you've all paid for the same training, should everyone do the same mantra and the same asana practice and the same breathing practices because it's branded? It's never meant to be that way. It's never meant to be that way because uh, the practices depend. We get back to that good old answer. I had to say it once tonight at least, but Ayurveda, the answer to everything is what practice? Well, it depends. Are you married? How old are you? How's your nervous system? What's your intentions? Are you ready to renounce life? Do you just want to master life more? Do you just need to be more present? Where's the person at? Will determine what practice we give them. And what tells us that? Man, the principles of Ayurveda, they infiltrate through everything. The qualities of everything. That's really what it boils down to. It's about balancing the qualities. What are qualities balance the imbalanced quality? Opposites balance. Like increases like, opposites balance. I mean, it's a really simple thing and it's used in a lot of holistic systems, but it gets down to like the qualities. What do I need? What quality do I need to cultivate to bring me more back to the center? And without knowing the Ayurvedic principles, I don't know how you figure that out here. I don't know how you'd figure out what practice to give someone unless, you're using something like the moon, sun, fire model. That's That should be based off Ayurvedic principles too. That's not like just a moon, sun, fire model, although it gets taught a lot like that. It's like a progression. It's actually not it's not really a progression. I mean, it sort of is like this is a progression, but it's always going to depend on the individual, where we start at and how we go through it. So without integrating, and this is why I think starting here is optimal. It doesn't matter, like it doesn't mean you need to stop studying yoga or stop practicing yoga by any means. But what I would highly suggest is like understanding more about Ayurveda, because that's what we need more of right now, you know. We just look around and I'm included here. And this is also, I like to be as real as I can because I think a lot of people look to, look, I know I've got a lot of knowledge about a lot of this stuff, but that doesn't by any means make my life perfect. In fact, the last 3 years I've been pushed so to the limits but in so many ways that if I hadn't had the preparation of all this in the prior years, um, things wouldn't be pretty. Things wouldn't be pretty right now. I mean, it's been tough enough as it is, even having all this under my belt. But so a lot of it's just about knowing, like at the time, something like right now is not the time for me to be doing 4,000 repetitions of a mantra, inducing the nine goddesses. I got two young kids. I'm running two businesses. Um, you know, it's I'm married. That's not the appropriate thing for me right now. Like getting right back to the basics of nourishing myself again, getting some rest because we have a 3-year-old and a 10-year-old, and the 3-year-old does not let us get sleep or rest and is at full attention the whole time. And I'm building. I'm on a building site again. I had years where I was just teaching full time, but I'm back building full time again just for now until we get the school fully running again. So it's not like knowing it makes your life perfect, and I know a lot of the leading teachers and peers in the world, and they're the same. And hopefully they talk about it the same. So we'll all still have our struggles and so forth. But without having this knowledge here, I wouldn't even know where to go. I know where I would have gone. I know where I'd gone if I was, 28 years ago or whenever it was. Um, so, so what I've done over the years is, I wasn't quick to jump into teaching trainings. I think part of it was through, one of my core beliefs or my vikalpas, if you know the word vikalpa, is sort of a false belief about yourself or what's the coaching thing? Your negative self beliefs. What do coaches say? Negative self belief. Your limiting self beliefs. There's a lot of languaging, but you're limiting self beliefs. In yoga and tantra, we call them a vikalpa. And one of mine was, um, I'm not important. I'm not good enough. So that was part of it. And I work with that a lot. And I don't have that as maybe there's a tiny bit of that there still. But I worked so I burnt so much of that away. It was great. Well, to do through this as well. Um, but I'm thankful in a way that when I look back and go, well, I'm glad I wasn't teaching trainings on this stuff straight after. I never did a 200 hour. My first training was a 1,300 hour full-time training. And even after that, it was like, man, I'm such a beginner. Sure, I can teach great asana classes and I know a lot more than someone that's done a 200 hour, but I still needed years of experience of trying on all those practices and fucking things up and working with people and more study and more integration and more of this sort of stuff to go through it all. So I didn't rush into teaching trainings. I started teaching workshops after, quite a few years of teaching. I started teaching shorter workshops, so I got better at sort of, what am I going to say? I don't want to just regurgitate stuff. I want to actually speak it so I can have people understand it in real life. And then when I started doing that a lot more, I'm like, okay, I feel like there's something there. So I started putting these trainings together, and I didn't, and this will probably piss a bunch of people off, and I'm going to make some posts about it soon. I'm kind of almost scared to do it, but it's like 200-hour teacher trainings need to not be a thing. They need to stop. Like now. I'm not saying 200-hour trainings, do as many 200-hour trainings as you like, but 200-hour certified teacher training, they need to end. They need to end. And I know that's going to piss off so many people, and I really don't mind. It's okay. They need to end. I've taught probably three of my own in my life, and I'd always had people asking, do a 200-hour training, do it. I'm like, I just don't, I don't, I could make a lot of money doing it, and I've kind of bummed I didn't cash in on. Well, I'm not bummed I didn't cash in on it, but I could have cashed in on it years ago, like a lot of people did. But it's done, man. It has to be done. It has to be done. So I put together a 300 hour. I put together what I did was put together a 300-hour training that were for people that have done 200 hours to go and continue on. And it was like, okay, let's start at the start and pretend they don't know anything about anything, because most people out of 200-hour trainings never had even heard of Samkhya philosophy. And that was absolutely mind blowing to me. It should be one of the very first things. Had no idea about Ayurveda, so I heavily loaded my 300-hour training with Ayurveda. In fact, my 300-hour training had no anatomy and physiology at all, no physical anatomy and physiology. It had no teaching of asana. It was just all about the principles of Ayurveda and yoga and Tantra. There was no hatha yoga. We practiced hatha yoga every day, but there was no where do you put your big toe? How do you it was just like that's not part of it. So I'm not saying this to demean anyone or anything. It's just the system, and the system kind of shot itself in the foot, but we need to change it. Um, so I put that 300-hour training together, and I think it was just a great way to get people way more curious about, wow, there's so much more to this than just how to put a sequence together to teach in a yoga practice. This is like a really, and even 300 hours is all just like still just introducing you to what's available. So that's led me to now, like, what do I think is important? Like, because I get two modules out of that. There's 7 50-hour modules in it. Two of them are sort of mostly Ayurvedic based. And now that I'm seeing what's happening in the world and just in the industry and everything like that, it's like, well, I've really wanted to put a proper Ayurvedic, not proper, but a longer, more in-depth Ayurvedic training together where we're not talking, we will be talking about yoga, we will be talking about Tantra, but I want to base it more on let's talk more Ayurveda and let's get more people understanding this so much more deeply. And then you can start applying it to these. So this is where the 650-hour training comes in, where it is, yes, it's a Ayurvedic health counselor training, but it's in the sense of like, I'm going to teach it by pulling out the best and the most relevant things out of all of these systems that I can imagine for people like myself. Maybe it's not going to be right for everyone, but people sort of that are like us, that are family orientated, we're running businesses, we're interested in these deeper teachings, we're not so interested in the fluff. I put together a training that's heavily into the deep teachings of Ayurveda, but it's absolutely going to integrate the energetics of Tantra and the psychology of yoga. So that then when we're working with people, it's not just what foods do we give them and sleep and oil and treatments, because that's what Ayurveda gets reduced to a lot. It's like, what does a person need right now? Yeah, we need to get their digestion good and that, but maybe their digestion and that's fine. Maybe their system's already pretty stable and they're pretty good. They're going to need some let's work with their mind now. Let's see where the mind's at. So I've got to have a little bit of like, how can I use these principles to start working with this person's mind? Well, there's all these yogic practices, but if we know the principles, we'll know which ones to give them. And we can give them through the values. We can give them practices according to the subtle essences, prana, tejas, and ojas, the gunas, rajas, tamas, sattva. the five prana vayus, you know, each different posture category treats one of the vayus. And this is all this is the perfect integration of hatha yoga and Ayurveda. What meditation? Maybe they need a lot more grounding. So let's go with an Apana Vayu grounding meditation. Maybe they need more assimilative power. Let's have a Samana Vayu meditation. Bring it right back to these really practical things. Forget mantras that are going to pierce you, have Shiva come up and pierce your third eye and send you into the vortex of non-duality. Let's just get, let's get real. Get real and what's going to be really helpful for people. I'm not saying they're out of the question. I'm just saying very, very few people are ready for this. Like I see it, I still see it getting sold out there. Teaching things to people they've got no business, they shouldn't be doing, they shouldn't be doing it. I'll say shouldn't. I mean, it's just not healthy that they're doing it or getting taught it. It's not healthy that the teacher thinks it's okay to teach that to those people. You know, I've know a few students of mine that have grabbed some of the heightened that grabbed the very last meditation I teach in the very last training I teach and took it on themselves, even though I advised against it, and took it off and watched them lose their shit. So, it might happen, but if we have more conscious sort of awareness about what we're doing and more knowledge, it's not going to stop it's not going to, you know, it won't stop all the mess, but it's definitely going to help rebuild. I really want to rebuild this and restructure this industry because it's so important. All this, it just got whacked. It just got super whacked and commodified, and that sort of tends to throw things into a tailspin. Um, So that's what the 650 hours about, the integration of all this. Yeah, we could be bound into the principles of Ayurveda and the daily rhythms and all the sort of, all the base things. And we touch on herbalism a little bit and because that itself is like, you need to go and do a full-blown herbalism practice. We'll touch on the basics and give formulas that are basic. But to be proper herbalist, you might need to go do like a 600-hour herbal course. So the apprenticeships I know of are about 1,200 hours just on herbalism. So you start to find what niche you want to go. If you want to go just herbalism, body treatments, by all means, go down that route. That's a great niche market. But this is the holistic way. This is what I would call Vedic counseling. I was almost going to call it Vedic counseling course, but I think people might I didn't want it to get, to me, that's not new agey, but to, you know, you know what I'm saying. Um, so we call it Ayurvedic health counselor, you know, and that's what it is. It's Vedic counseling. It's working with people on all levels. Um, well, so that got us through. We got through an hour. We've got through an hour. Nikki, I don't know if Nikki's actually, is there, Nikki? Might be just listening. But oh my God,
Hi, Brad. I'm here.
going. So stoked to have you here.
Yeah, yeah.
What's it-
Finally on the right time zone to be able to catch things that you're offering.
Awesome. Are you back in Oz? Does that mean, or you're?
Y- Yeah, yeah, I am.
Oh, awesome. All right. Well, let's make sure we catch up this time.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
I love everything you're sharing, and I just am like, yes, yes, yes,
I know you're
yes
on the
to
same page.
all of
I
it.
know all of you are on the same page. I know Danny. I don't even know Danny very. Have we even met before, Danny? Have you done anything with me before?
No, I haven't.
No, but I can already tell we're on the same page because you're
Yeah, I
not
know, I know.
the things. I'm like, yeah,
I,
Danny's on
I
this.
know.
Highly
That's
already
why
know
I'm
these things.
here. That's why I'm
No,
here.
yeah,
You're the
cool.
only one. You're the only one saying it right now.
Oh, there's probably a couple of others, but there's not many. I know there's not
No,
many.
there's not
That's why.
many.
That's why I'm back on the horse, and I'm like, God, I don't want this to fade away. I don't want. In fact, I want it to come back with full force. I just want to help rebuild the industry, and let's get people trained up properly. Let's get this going as pumping as it was 10 years ago, but but in a proper, helpful, proper way, because it's just going to be so beneficial more and more as as everything that's kicking into the world right now, and I don't even know where to go with it. I don't even know what to say but we're gonna. Well, all I can say is we're gonna need more and more and more of this type of understanding, and practical duality teaching, and just grounding, like full on. Um, so yeah, do you have any questions on any of that? Do you want to say anything about any of that? Go to free. Kylie, what would you like to do? Say something.
I'm still really slow with technology.
That's all.
Brad, I've loved listening to you for what you're saying earlier. I was at work listening along, and I've heard your, story quite a few times over the years. But today, I don't know, you said a few different things that really, resonated with me. And I'm wondering, with the 650-hour training, because I've done the 1 and 2 Ayurveda 1 and 2 with you, is that part of it, or what am I even saying? Because I wasn't even thinking of doing the training until I was listening to you now. Because I, like, where I live in Exmouth, WA,
Yep.
people still come to my classes. I've got my regulars for the last 20 years, but a lot of them have moved on now to Pilates and the gym, particularly women around my age, like early 50s. It's all about bone strength and which all makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's just making me feel like now I want to be less about asana and then start actually taking that step now of being, I don't know, just leaning more towards Ayurveda and Tantra, and maybe I might have less people coming to my classes because they're so used to what I've been doing. But so this training of yours just feels like it's coming at the right time for me.
Perfect.
So I was, just wondering, does it have the 1 and 2 Ayurveda specialist if I've already done that, or?
It's a good question, and I probably need to put that on.
I haven't looked at it. I haven't even looked at what the training's about
Yeah, I haven't actually. I haven't finished the page. The page is up with enough info, but I haven't done the
Yeah.
exercises and that. But that's one that I know I'm going to get a lot of questions about. It's like, if I've done Ayurveda 1 and 2 in your training, is it going to be part of it? Yeah, absolutely. And what I always say to that, because I've had questions over the years, is like, is that going to be taught? Are we going to do the values again in that training? I'm like, we're going to do the values in about 4 or 5 trainings, and we're going to look at them from different angles
Yeah.
because you won't understand them properly until we've looked at you till 10 years later anyway. Yeah, you'll just know it so much better. And when I went through my training through the California College of Ayurveda, I knew probably 80% of the first 600 hours that I learned. But we looked at it at a different way because I was now looking at it as I'm going to be a practitioner, and it was from a different teacher. And it was from a different course. It wasn't from a yoga course. It was from an Ayurveda course. So it just deepened. So I was actually ahead of the game.
Yeah.
What it did is it allowed me to
That feels
understand it.
good.
It allowed me to understand it
Yeah.
so much more than the people that were still trying to learn the Sanskrit.
Yeah.
I had all that dialed down. I knew the values, I knew the gunas, I knew a lot of it. That's why I actually really liked the first level because it was so much it was based on spirituality and that. So yeah, a lot of it will be in that, but it'll be different. We're gearing it towards being a health counselor. So some
I
will be
always like to go over things a few more times. Anyway, I mean, I bring the values into my class, every single class, and I bring a lot of Ayurveda into my classes too. But I'm actually doing a coaching course at the moment as well, like an accredited one that I got a big grant through BHP or something for. Anyway, I thought I'm doing that coaching course more for me to learn how to listen because I'm good at interrupting when people are telling me something and I want to jump in with my amazing ideas. So, but I'd like to lean towards the counselling, what you're talking about with the course that you're running. So, I look forward to hearing more about that and when it will. Yeah.
Send me an email and we'll have a chat about it. Or we
That'd be
can have
great.
a discovery call and we'll chat about just reach out. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Look, I know
awesome.
there's a lot of people who've done the 300 like, are we going to be going through a lot of that again? I'm like, sure,
Yeah,
we'll
but
be.
that's super helpful. Mm.
That's super helpful. You'll be so in
Yeah,
the game. I've
yeah.
I've studied probably at least the first 600 hours of what I learned in Ayurveda school, probably 4 times,
Mm.
different
Yeah,
under different people, and it's
yeah.
only made it make
Mm.
10 times more sense.
I thought it was just me, like always having to kind of go over things, but I've,
Uh,
other teachers.
with this
I
stuff,
thought I was just a course junkie.
I'm still learning things about the doshas.
Mm.
I'm still
Yeah.
like deep in it. I'm like, seriously, think that's the basic part?
Mm.
No. 20 years later, I'm
Yeah.
still like, wow, there's another little level that I just sort of tweaked and something made
Mm.
me understand that at another level. So repetition's
Yeah.
epic. It'll just make you more receptible to learning what is actually being taught because you're not going to be struggling
Mm.
on the Sanskrit or the
Yeah.
concept so much. It'll just sink in at a lock in at such a better
Mm.
level to set you up to counsel people.
Be confident.
It's
Yeah.
a bit more geared to counseling, whereas the 300 hours just more
Mm.
like,
Mm.
eh, this is for you. This is for you to
Yeah.
do. We sort of do it, say, working with students one on one,
Mm.
but it's
Yeah.
more for like this is for yourself. Whereas this one is both for yourself, and it's like yes, and we are going to set you up to work.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Reach out for sure, and I'll be happy to.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, good one. Glad you made it tonight. I didn't think you were going to.
Yeah. Well, that was another thing I thought, oh, this is kind of like all happening at the right time for me, like just seeing you having this talk tonight. So taking it as a sign.
The main reason I actually went through with it is because you were on here. No one else. I know, like I said, there's 17 people signed up, and then you're there. I'm like, and you're going to leave. So I'm going
Yeah.
to do it tonight or not? I'll just do it anyway. And then
Yeah.
Danny showed
Cool.
up. Like, all right,
Yeah.
cool.
Cool. See?
Nikki walked in later. So yeah, I just
Yeah.
thought I'll do it anyway because I know people will watch the recordings.
Mm. They
Yeah,
will.
perfect. Yeah, super stoked you're on
Mm.
here. Yeah, and
Mm.
what you're doing is wise, and you don't necessarily even have to give up what you're doing. If it's working in
No.
your classes,
Mm.
just add. A lot of people
Mm.
did that, and after certain things at school, they
Yeah.
would stop what they
10
were
years
teaching.
working.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, just keep doing what you're doing, but just start adding and integrating
Yeah.
more. And that way
That's
you
what I've been doing, but
don't freak the students out and they don't run away. And then you start to
yeah.
more.
Because I was doing some Ayurveda workshops, and like yourself, life took over with a now nearly teenage. Well, he's nearly 15,
Wow.
and but now I feel like I just if I don't start doing these workshops and that sort of thing, I'm just going to shrivel up and die. So I've got to start
Now,
moving forward. Yeah.
yeah, I
Mm.
couldn't get enough training. And if I was in a different, I just kept training and doing
Yeah.
courses. Quite just school. I
Mhm.
couldn't get enough of it. I just wanted to sit in courses
Yeah.
all the
Same.
time back in the day. And
Mm.
I would now, but I just obviously
Good.
I'm more on this end of like, we'll teach it for a while more and then we'll study.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Brad.
You're
I'll
welcome.
definitely be in touch.
Yeah,
Mm.
good one. Thanks, Kylie.
Mm.
All right. Danny, anything you've got? Any questions? Anyone want to say anything? Stoked you made it.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
Cool.
I
Where
think
are you? Are you
I'm on the sunny coast,
Sunny Coast? Cool.
so I'm not too far.
No, nice. I love it up there. We went up there a little while ago for a little 4-day vacay.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Danny, yeah, Nikki's up on the sunny. I thought she was up there. She's up on the
Oh,
sunny.
Nikki.
Oh, yeah, she's from the States. I met Nikki, well, in Bali, but she's there now. I'm not sure for how long or whatever, but she's been on the, yeah.
Well, that's nice. Sorry.
Cool. Well, I'm glad you joined us tonight. Thanks for hopping in. It's a bit of just an hour spiel as much as I could get in about what I'm up to and
Oh, I love it. I'm
what I'm
really
talking about. Yeah.
interested.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah. It seems to be, there's a certain, I don't attract the masses yet. Hopefully at some point I will. But it sorts out. I know the people that are really into the depth and the quality of things rather
Yeah.
than just the glamour and glory. I mean,
Yeah,
we make it fun and we make it cool, but it's like, it's just a bit of no nonsense stuff.
exactly. That's what resonates with me deeply about what you're doing. So when I did my teacher training, years ago, even though it was a long training, there's so much that I've not forgotten, but there is a lot I've forgotten.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's where my heart is with what you're talking about in this day and age with all the hoo-ha going on. Um, so it's just nice to see someone out there like yourself sharing wisdom and knowledge. So I was really happy to see what you're doing.
Well, thank you. I love doing it, and I'll be doing it more and more and more again. Yeah, I've had a few years where I haven't been, and it hurts. I'm really, I love sharing it, and I love just hanging out with people that want to learn it and share it.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite part. I'm like, oh, people that get it and want to get it and want to because it's not me. I'm just relaying what I've learned, and then I add my experience to it. But that's the relatable part, I guess. That's why I sort of attract the people I do.
Yes, you are. See, I'm a martial artist too.
Right,
And
great.
I and
If I could
I
train now, I'd be right back. I
and
started
then
a
I
while
love
ago,
it. And then yoga, I found yoga through like depression and Ayurveda, the same thing. It's exactly what happened.
yeah.
And it's like, and I'm like, what is this?
Well, think of how many people are out there like us that just
I,
think of yoga and they just think of it as a bunch of bullshit. But if they learnt what we're talking about here, they'd be like, oh,
it,
I thought it
it's,
was all just about auras and chakras.
I know
Well,
it's not right.
it is, but not in that way. It's in a very anchored, grounded,
Yeah.
real way,
Well,
you know.
that's what it seems like social media is like now. It just
Yeah.
represents it in such a
It has for so long.
unhealthy
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm trying to get better at like, how do I get this to people? Like, I don't want to battle my way. I do social media, but I don't want to sort of like, it's so much noise. It's like just the avenues, and then it's word of mouth works for me. I just need to get back on the road, I think, and start getting in front of people and places more again. And that's what's always worked best for me. I've just got a bit smashed with children
Oh,
and
Brad, I've got to say this so that Danny can hear as well. Like, I mean, I've trained with same teacher as you, and then a few others in the same path. And but I find that the way you articulate everything and deliver your trainings is just definitely works for me. Like it's just you're so real, clear. You explain it so in a way that I can actually get it, understand it, and so much of what you say I can resonate with as well. And so I think Danny's definitely found the right person for learning or all of this. So
I love hearing that. Yeah, thank you. I love hearing it. It's just that's what I wanted to be relatable. You know, I'm not sitting on it. There's no pedestal here. I'm just just another dude. Love studying and teaching this stuff. You know. Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks, Kylie. I appreciate that. Good hearing that. Cool. All right. Well, maybe it'll wrap it up for the evening, but we'll do some more stuff again. I think Mia's going to teach something in a couple of weeks too. She'll do like a 1 hour something. So we'll get Mia set up in the bat cave like this, and I'll be doing more as well. I'm just going to keep doing these. I think it's also a good way to meet with Danny. We met Danny tonight, so it's a great way. You know, if I can meet one new person per one of these, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
I don't need millions of people. I just want good ones that want to do the good shit. If I can say it like that. Yeah. Awesome. And thanks so much, guys, and thanks for who watches the recordings. I'm not sure what happened with the link, but hopefully we'll get the recording sent out to you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks so much.
Danny, I'm off to my boys' football now.
Yeah, kids just waiting. I can hear him screaming out there for me now.
See ya.
Thank you
Bye,
so
guys.
much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.